Hello there. This is General Grievous, and you are watching the Cantina Club.
Scum and villainy, it's a wretched hive. But life ain't always teddy bears, fireworks, and high fives. The folks round here don't care for sand. Stick around long enough, you'll be lucky just to lose a hand. Singing yum num. Raise your glass.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cantina Club. We're going back to do a 10 parsecs. I haven't done one of these in a few months. So if you remember, we're going to do 3 subjects, 10 minutes each, and then maybe a few little extra added on discussions at the end. So don't go anywhere, come right back, and we'll jump into everything. All right.
We all know round here, Solo always does shots first. Singing yum num, raise your glass, and sing yum num. Sing it with me, yum num.
Actually, try that the other way.
Yeah, I don't know which way will be hard.
It's funny because I have to point the exact opposite.
Oh, okay.
When it flips.
I took a guess. Dual finger guns.
Yeah, exactly. That way you can. All right. Well, we are back, and we're going to jump into, like I said, a 10 parsecs this week. We'll get to the subject matter in a minute, but first, we're going to do like we normally do and start out with our Verahcoo segment. And any new additions that we've got since the last episode, any new things we've bought or acquired, we're going to show on here. So I'm going to start with you, Greedo. What sort of things you want to show off for us this week?
Well, I've got the poster frame behind me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a polished gold flip frame from Spotlight Displays. If you need some frames, you should check out Spotlight Displays. I've been a long time customer there, and flip frames are really cool for being able to switch posters in and out quickly, even on your wall and stuff like that. And that's a one of the gold Mylar Empire Strikes Back anniversary posters with the Boba Fett design. Yeah, I had it in a polished silver frame, but since most of the poster is gold, I switched it to a gold one. I'm going to use the silver frame elsewhere.
Yeah, but, I remember the silver. This you're right. This does look better.
Yeah, I think there's more gold in there that it brings out than with the silver. But both look really good. It's an incredible poster that has skyrocketed in value even since I bought this one. So this one's in.
Which one was that? The 10-year anniversary?
Yeah, it's made by the Corellian poster company, which I don't know, I think they're defunct now, but in the 90s they made, late 80s, and then in the 90s they made 10-year and made different anniversary posters for the different movies. And some of them are just really beautiful, like the gold foil Return of the Jedi poster that I have being autographed right now, which I've featured on this channel somewhat, is another Corellian poster. So they used to be very easy to get because they weren't, original 70s and 80s posters, but people have caught on to, that they're really great posters, and they're collectible because a lot of them are not numbered and things like that. So they become much more difficult to acquire and much more expensive. So there's several. There's a 10-year Empire Strikes Back anniversary poster that's silver Mylar with Luke on the Tauntaun on it. It's really. I'll see if I can send you a picture of it, throw it up on here. But it's one that I've been after for a while, but the price has never been right, and probably never will be now because they've really skyrocketed. But anyway, that's one of it. That one's in very good fine condition. So one of the better posters I have to display. So I just need to put it up on the wall now.
Yeah, nice.
I'd throw it in the background. But what have you got?
That's awesome.
That's Verahcoo.
All right. Well, my Verahcoo for this week, I actually bought a set, which I'll get to in a second. A couple of things that I've had actually for I bought a couple of months ago, about 3 months ago. I just never got around to showing them. is obviously, you know, I know you and I both like the Black Series figures. So I picked up an Asajj Ventress.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that came out really nice.
Yep. That's kind of her initial costume, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's that.
I like that.
Another Black Series, Bo-Katan.
Nice. Yeah, very nice. I don't think I've seen those around here. So.
No, yeah, they were. I just found them at Walmart.
Oh, good, nice going.
Very nice. All right, then I also ordered a set. I ordered them individually, but I've now got the full set. The final 3 came in yesterday. Not without pain. I had to return 2 of them because they both came mashed.
Oh no!
Like someone had taken them in a water
right,
and then put them in a shipping box and sent them to me.
Did you get them off Amazon or something?
Yeah, I had to send 2 of them
back.
And then I got anyway.
Never know with Amazon.
Exactly. So here's the first 2.
Nice.
Got Hunter and Wrecker.
Those are great.
Yeah, they did a really good job on these. So.
D. Bradley Baker's gonna make a fortune signing those because it's every character. It's like, how many characters are there? Like 5 that he does, 5 or 6 that he does, along with Rex and everything else.
Exactly.
He could be signing those till doomsday.
And the next 2, I've got Echo and Crosshair.
Oh, that's killer.
Yeah. Hopefully that's not too glary.
No. I forgot that's what Crosshair's helmet looked like.
Yeah, with the actual crosshair on the eye.
Yeah, because.
And then lastly, of course, Tech.
Yeah. Very cool. Verahcoo.
Now, one thing you'll notice when I showed these, if you'll notice the difference in the box between Wrecker and the others are all red.
Yeah.
This is actually a Wrecker from a different series. So the pose is different. If you can see on the picture there on the side, he's just got his hands out.
Yeah.
Whereas the one that actually comes with this set, the red set, is actually has him holding a blaster.
Oh, okay.
But that was the one that came mashed up. So I missed the one that came really just and so I had to send it back. And when I reordered, I ended up ordering that one because it was more affordable than the other one that I just got rid of. So.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, so I've got that whole set now. So that's my actually one other quick Verahcoo is that poster behind me. I picked that up when I was in Tennessee back a few weeks ago, about last month. Just nothing special about it, just just a quick print. Nothing original or anything about it. I just like that one. That's one of the
yeah, no, that's great.
So yeah, I'll get that in a frame at some point and get it up on my wall very soon. But anyway, so that's Verahcoo.
It makes a good background, so
yeah, I like it. As you can see, I tightened up my background better. Okay, so let's move into our recommendation segment, which is Cloud City or Rancor Pit. I guess we should probably go ahead and add carbon freezing in there too, since we've had a couple of those. We're not really sure where they're going to go. Are they going to be good? Or are they going to be bad? But anyway, for now, Cloud City or Rancor Pit. And I'll go ahead and go first this week. I have a Cloud City. Oh, Hammerhead.
He's just hanging out.
Hammerhead bobblehead. Nice. So my Cloud City this week, it is a Cloud City, is the show Billions. And that's
okay. I've heard of this, but I've never watched it.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I really have enjoyed it. They're in the season either 5 or 6. I always forget which season they're in right now, 5 or 6. But Paul Giamatti is the main star of the show. And he's just, to me, he's one of those guys. I just like him just about anything he does pretty much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. he's always been really good. And Damian Lewis is kind of his counterpart in this one, kind of the one, his adversary, I should say. People may remember him from
Homeland.
Homeland, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that. That was good.
And he was also, I believe, in the original the Band of Brothers, which was really good.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, he's phenomenal. He's another actor I pretty much like everything he does. But they play off each other really, really well. I mean, if you're not sure, if you don't know the concept or the idea of the show, it's basically modern day Wall Street, insider trading, and all these, these Damian Lewis's character Axe is what he goes by for short. He's an investment broker who runs this multi-billion-dollar investment firm. And then Paul Giamatti plays basically a lawyer, works for the what's the name of the organization, the government?
Like
the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. And he's like one of the top guys there, who's always trying to take acts down for illegal things and stuff like that. And it's just, the series just kind of revolves around their sort of antagonistic relationship. But it's a phenomenal show, great cast. I highly recommend it. Definitely 2 thumbs up from the trader.
Does it manage to stay good over multiple seasons and things like that? It has,
yeah. That's the thing. It hasn't dipped as bad as some shows do after about 5 seasons or so.
Right.
Yeah, it's still maintaining a fairly high level of quality that I've enjoyed. So yeah, I really like it. So yeah, so check it out on Showtime. Billions. All right, what do you got for us this week?
Well, I'm gonna do a throwback Cloud City, and this is going to be very much dependent on individual taste and what your sense of humor is and all that. But I'm going to Cloud City, a series that I believe it's on Amazon Prime. You can watch it. Okay. Or it's on Hulu. I can't remember which one. But it's called Jean-Claude Van Johnson. And have you heard of this?
Okay. It sounds familiar, but I don't know that I actually have.
I still really have no idea why I watched it initially, but I watched it a while ago. And it's 1 season. I don't know they'll ever do another, but you just have to watch it. That's all I can say is you have to watch it and then decide if it's for you or not. But it kind of features, to me, it's the best thing Jean-Claude Van Damme's ever done. And, which is pretty easy for me to say because I'm not a huge fan or anything, but the writing on it and the execution of the show, you just have to watch it. It's totally different than what you would expect. It's bizarre, funny, kind of heartfelt and moving at times, and just one of those things where we used to, the 80s action stars, we had a kind of a hierarchy of ones that we really liked and enjoyed, even their stuff that we knew was bad. We still enjoyed it. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the #1, right? But one of the things about most of those actors was the sense of humor put into the movies and the content, where they did kind of, most of them make fun of themselves somewhat, some like Sylvester Stallone, it seemed like it took longer to get there, but Jean-Claude Van Damme is not one you think of in that regard, right? Where, it was always just way too serious, and everything. And this kind of turns all that on its head, and is incredibly surprising. It was incredibly surprising for me. And I can now say I'm a fan of his, which I never ever would have thought of. So, yeah, it's I'm putting it in Cloud City, which is a high standard, but I don't really know where it belongs. It's better than Carbon Freeze, but it's just different, and you just have to watch it and give it a chance. And it's a good, fun watch, and nothing hugely challenging about it or dramatic. It's not challenging like Handmaid's Tale or anything. It's just a good time, but a weird flavor, a different flavor. So and it'll make you see him in a completely different light through a filter of the same light. It's weird. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just really different. Check it out. Okay. Jean-Claude Van Johnson. I think the title says it all, but you still won't expect what you're going to see. So check it out.
Nice. Very good. All right, well, that's our recommendation segment for this week. Lots of Cloud Cities lately. Okay.
Yeah,
So
there's some
let's
good
jump
stuff
in.
out there to watch. So
What's that?
I said there's some good stuff out there to watch.
Oh,
you
there
know?
really is. You're right. You're absolutely
And
right.
as much as I love bashing things, it's, I also I'm not just going to do that relentlessly for no reason.
Yeah, ironically, Gundark has had more Rancor pits than the rest of
Yeah,
them.
I don't, there's so much stuff that when it's really bad, I just don't enjoy watching it. It has to be like a train wreck for me to really, train wreck bad for me to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, same. All right, so like I said, we're gonna go back and do another 10 parsecs for the first time in a few months. So in case you don't remember the format, we have 3 topics, and we're gonna spend 10 minutes on each topic. When the timer runs out, that's it. So this week, what we're gonna talk about the first up for discussion is gonna be what we consider the best villains of the Clone Wars animated series. Then we're going to move into our favorite cameos of the Clone Wars animated series. And then we're going to finish up with a general discussion of the character of Grand Admiral Thrawn and kind of what our impressions have been of him so far in the Star Wars universe, and then what we are expecting moving forward in the live action casting of this character. So, all right, well, let me get my timer ready to go here for the 10 minutes, and we will start on our first subject matter, which is top villains in Clone Wars. All right. Greedo, would you like to start us off?
Well, yeah, sure. And my initial question that kind of sparked this was, who is the nastiest villain in the Clone Wars? Which I wanted your opinion on that because you are the Clone Wars guy more than me.
Yeah, I mean,
and you've just seen it a lot more than I have, and there still might be episodes that I've missed out on. And
sure.
Gundark and I have been rewatching it, and what sparked this for me was 2 villains that, off the top of my head. One was General Krell, right? Is that his name, the Jedi Master, which I could not friggin' believe my eyes. I think I had watched this stuff before, but I may have skipped that arc because it didn't feature the main characters. Well, you can call the clones the main characters, but at the time I was just kind of
there was no Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah, there's no, and so I may have skipped over it, which is a huge mistake. It's phenomenal arc about the clones when they take Anakin off this mission and put General Krell in charge. Another just bonehead move by the Jedi Council. Like, what are they doing up there? It's like they sit on their ass all day long and send people like this to go do their dirty work for them. Right. But anyway, that made me think of it. And then another villain who I'm a little unprepared, so I didn't get his name, and I doubt you'll know his name. But do you remember the arc set on the Admiral Akbar's homeworld? The prince, the Mon Cal prince, and
3, I believe. You're talking about the shark guy.
Yes, the shark villain. Yeah. This guy took me completely by surprise, and he is nasty. I mean, just the definition of nasty. And I was
Rip
like,
Tamson is his name.
Rip.
R-I-F-F. Yeah, Rip Tamson.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought his name might have been, when they were saying it in the show, I thought it might have been Rip, which was appropriate because he is a shark man, and which is, kind of, I don't know, pushing it a little bit, but I mean, Admiral Akbar is a squid or whatever, Mon calamari. I mean, we've already gone as far as we can go with the camp, so might as well have a shark dude. But the shark guy is intimidating as hell, and he is vicious. He basically kills opponents with his mouth, which he should be an opinion guy on some TV station, on some cable news network, because he uses his mouth to destroy everyone. But I was just like super impressed with this guy because he does not back off. He's nasty from moment 1, and he's nasty till the end. And then they do the Jaws tribute, which I won't spoil it, but they do kind of a Jaws tribute at the end. But I found myself kind of rooting for the guy because he was just so mean. And there's some villains that you feel like are restrained by villains above them, like he's answering to Count Dooku. And I feel like if Count Dooku had just gotten out of the way, this guy probably would have won things for them because he was so mean. Yeah, he wasn't going to spend a lot of time giving speeches, like Mr. Bond, before I kill you,
Yeah.
No, he was just angry and vicious. And so anyway,
Yeah,
those
he's a
two
good one.
characters, seeing those in that, you start about you said about season 3 and 4.
Yeah,
I think
that's
those
the beginning of
characters are
season
in.
3, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Clone Wars starts getting really dark in there, especially season 4. But I was amazed how far they pushed it in that arc with the Mon Cal and the shark people and all that stuff.
Right.
Because there's some pretty serious warfare, underwater warfare going on there,
Yeah.
and a lot of just a brutal action. And so anyway, I was going to nominate that guy as the most vicious or nastiest villain in Clone Wars until I saw Krell, and then it's like I don't know anymore because Krell's extremely nasty. But anyway, that was what I kind of wanted to bring forward, was those two characters, and think about like the kind of the darker villains, and so anyway, those are the two I wanted to start with. What have you got?
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that those are both really good. And one of mine obviously is General Grell. He's just brutal,
Yeah.
and I think he's kind of one of those villains that you hate more because he's not so much based in fantasy. He's the
Right.
type of character that exists in real life.
Oh, absolutely.
That type of general who looks at his soldiers as literally just numbers on a page, just
even worse than that, he
just fodder
despises
to be
them.
mowed down.
Yeah, he despises them. He hated clones.
Yeah,
he just constantly is disparaging of them. He calls it clone when he addresses them.
Right, and he refuses
to acknowledge that they're individuals. Yeah,
right, exactly. He just literally would call them by their serial number, and that's it. So yeah, I mean, we've already talked about him, so I won't go into detail. But yeah, I would put him way up there. He's just nasty. When I watched that story arc, I just, he's just disgusting. He's so bad. I think the obvious answer, I guess, almost too obvious, would be Maul. Darth Maul.
Yeah, no,
because obviously he makes quite a few appearances in the Clone Wars, and he's Maul. We know him from Phantom Menace, and we know him from all aspects of the Star Wars universe by now. He's been in just about everything.
And he's got a high body count in Clone Wars. And
yeah,
he does it all with his own hands.
Sure.
It's not a lot of push button from a distance killing people. He's up close and personal
Right.
killing people. Yeah.
So
definitely
I'll kind of jump off of Maul and make the quick connection to his brother Savage Opress.
Yeah.
Another character that I really like, the character that obviously is the one who goes in search of finding Maul and ends up bringing him back from pretty much oblivion. He's just a well done character, I thought. I mean, I say well done. He's fairly one dimensional, but the reason being is because he's basically under a spell. He's not a fully fleshed out character for that very reason. He's there for a reason, to get Maul back into the story and to just plain be evil, which he is. And so I do like I wouldn't rank him up as far as like one of the big baddies. Like obviously he's not a Dooku or a Maul or something like that to that degree, because he's more of a henchman, versus a mastermind, as it were, like a Maul or a Dooku or something like that. So I would go with Savage Opress, and then I'll mention one more, since we're on the subject matter. One of my personal favorite villains in the show was Asajj Ventress. He was just really phenomenal. I just loved what they did with that character. I think I like her because they show her humanity at times, that she's not just a cardboard cutout, I am evil, character.
Yeah, that's one reason why I wouldn't put her with the nastiest villains, because
right, I
didn't see any episodes where, I mean, she's obviously evil in the beginning and embracing the dark side, and she's ruthless, but I didn't see her as the show got darker. She started to become more of an individual with a good side.
Yeah.
So she wasn't committing atrocities at that point like some of these other villains were. So
right. And then
great villain.
Not to give too many spoilers if you haven't watched Clone Wars, but come on, it's been years, people. Gundark.
Right.
But like you said, eventually she ends up actually even working with.
She's an anti-hero, basically.
Yeah. But she ends up working with Ahsoka, at one point when she's cast out of the Jedi Order, and they actually team up for a while, which would have never happened.
Obi-Wan too. Yeah.
What's that?
Teams up with Obi-Wan too.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. But and that kind of stuff would never have happened in the first few seasons. So it just kind of shows a little bit of the evolution of her character and how she reacts to being, sort of kicked out, of everything that she tries to join too, whether it's, obviously she's Dooku's apprentice, and then he gets rid of her, he tries to kill her, and then she joins, the Night Sisters, and then they get wiped out, and so she's just trying to find, her place in the galaxy at this point. And so it's kind of interesting to see kind of how her personality changes because of all those setbacks in her story arc.
I find it interesting that a lot of these villains in Clone Wars, because of the nature of them putting stuff in between stories, is filling out the stories, that a lot of these villains are an illustration of the dangers of being a villain in the Star Wars universe, because there is almost no one to turn to. Exactly. If you are not the main dog, you are expendable, and alliances end swiftly, created swiftly, end swiftly. They're violent, the grudges are long, they're violent, the stakes are high, and there's a lot of suffering that goes along, and uncertainty and fear that goes along with being a villain if you don't have the power to back that up. So exactly. And that's constantly shown again with Oppress, with Ventress, with Maul. Maul's the ultimate illustration of that, as a also ran, or almost the guy but never the guy.
Yeah, exactly. So we have only 10 seconds left, so I do have to mention a name. As you know, I can't let this subject go by without talking about Cad Bane. And he is,
and our time is up.
He's one. So as you know, he's one of my absolute favorites. He's Bounty Hunter, nasty. He's now made an appearance in Bad Batch even, and with a couple episodes. So yeah, he's just one of my favorites. And if you recall, Greedo will never let me forget that he made my top 10 list of all-time favorite Star Wars characters. Right. Even when you can see the impact Clone Wars had on me, because I think I had about 4 characters that only appear in Clone Wars, or at least at the time, in my top 10.
Oh man.
All right. So so that's it for that subject. All right. So our second subject, we're going to talk about our favorite cameos that appear in Clone Wars and the Bad Batch. And so I'll go ahead and start out with a little bit of Clone Wars. One of my favorite, and I say favorites, this is just ones that I found interesting. I liked the fact that we got Tarkin in Clone Wars, and obviously he's now made he's crossed the bridge over into Bad Batch as well. We've seen him on several episodes as well. But this is just a character I've always been fascinated with ever since, Peter Cushing, embodied him in the first Star Wars film. And myself, I love seeing extra stories about these types of characters. I know Greedo agrees with that to a certain point. I know there are certain characters he likes to be hands off on.
Right.
What's your take on that? Like a character like a Tarkin.
I love Tarkin. I love Tarkin in Clone Wars. Bad Batch, it was cool seeing him. It wasn't super memorable because they moved on really fast from that. But I remember more the Clone Wars cameo from the Citadel.
That was a great story
arc. Yeah, I think, did he appear again at some point? I think he may have, but
I believe he did. Yeah, I believe he came back again later.
Because I remember him and Anakin, talking or something in another episode at some point. But the Citadel arc was amazing to me. That's one of my favorite arcs in Clone Wars. It kind of encapsulates a whole lot of stuff that, themes and ideas and visuals and everything from bridging prequels to the original trilogy, which is really cool when they manage to do that stuff. And you also begin to see just the inkling of what these officers that are going to succeed under Palpatine, what their kind of template is, which is Tarkin, which is very, very cold, ruthless, efficient, and just more concerned with winning, than anything else, and advancement than anything else. You can actually see them begin to network and cold-bloodedly, find out who has influence that can help them and things like that. And so all those implications are in there, and also the fact that Anakin and Tarkin have some things in common is established in that. Anyway, that was a great one in Clone Wars for sure. Tarkin, that was one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was a really good one. Okay, so I'll switch gears a little bit here and go with Qui-Gon in Clone Wars. What'd you think of that one? That was from the Mortis arc.
Yeah. Was that Liam Neeson in there?
Mm-hmm.
It was. I wonder how they pulled that off.
Yeah, I know, to get him to come back and voice.
I know he makes a movie every week, so how is he available?
When is he gonna have time?
Right. But yeah, I thought that was him, but they do such a good job with the voices sometimes that I wasn't
sure. It's hard to tell. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, how can you argue with Liam Neeson doing a cameo as Spirit Qui-Gon? But the Mortis arc is you'll either like it and embrace it, or be confused by it or hate it, and I'm kind of in between. I'm a little still confused by it.
I am too, honestly.
Yeah, I watched it a second time with Gundark, and she was amazed by it. I don't know whether neither one of us still know what to think about it entirely. Mm-hmm. But I think as a metaphor, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree.
If you don't take it too literally, it's kind of like a weird Star Trek episode where they go into this nebula where there's a secret planet behind and all these weird things happen, and then when they come out they forget everything.
That
really
that's a great comparison.
Yeah, so you can almost like skip it if you want to, but if you want to indulge in it and watch it, and then it gives people something to talk about. How much did this actually happen? How much did these characters actually influence the galaxy and things that went on? But it's one of the few times in Clone Wars we get to see Anakin confront the darkness inside him, and I thought that was really kind of a cool thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Evil Ahsoka I didn't buy so much, but
okay, yeah,
that was a little gratuitous, I thought, because it was just like she's possessed. But yeah, Liam Neeson was good in that. Shocking. It makes you wonder why they didn't do it in Revenge of the Sith instead of having Yoda give exposition about it.
Right. That would have been phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't understand that. That could have been clearer in the movies, but yeah, that was a good cameo, I thought. Again, it depends on how you feel about that arc and the whole backstory they did for Force Ghosts and immortality. And
exactly. So moving on a little bit to Bad Batch, obviously one of the more high-profile cameos we've gotten thus far is Captain Rex. He's made an appearance in now his third series. First in Clone Wars, then in Rebels, and now he's in Bad Batch.
Right.
So we've had him in.
He's like the new C-3PO. He's in everything. He's in everything new. Right. He'll show up in Mandalorian, Ahsoka. He'll definitely be Ahsoka.
Exactly. So obviously, I love seeing Captain Rex. He's one of my favorites from Clone Wars. He's one of the main, obviously one of the top clones. Pretty much appeared throughout all 8 seasons of Clone Wars.
I do want to point out it's going to be a tough 16 years for him from Bad Batch to Rebels.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, he's another one like Obi-Wan that's like, this decade was really rough on these guys.
Really tough on him. Yeah, because he grew a big gut and lost all his hair and did all that.
It happens to a lot of people, but still,
but in that short amount of time,
it was like 30 years of progress in about 15. Yeah,
30 years of age in about 10 years.
Yeah. The Jango Fett DNA didn't work out so well for some people, but in the longer haul. But I do want to say, Rex is amazing in Bad Batch. They less is more with him so far, and I like that. The Bad Batch, one of the coolest things about it is the way they differentiate the clones, and it's also one of the cool things about Clone Wars. I don't know how they do that, but it works. And Rex stands alone. I mean, you wouldn't confuse him with all these other clones that are exactly him. Personality, everything. He's, you know him immediately. And the other cameo I wanted to say was Cad Bane. As much as I was laughing at him, I thought he made a terrific cameo in Bad Batch, and it was just another part of his kind of story. This guy is getting worn down by his lifestyle in the galaxy and everything, but he's still hanging on, you know.
Right.
But you're beginning to see cracks that he may not be the best anymore, you know, like he's
Right.
beginning, it's kind of like bounty hunters. Yeah, if you live long enough, you know, what do you become? And you know, you're no longer, or if you're a gunslinger, you know,
Right.
you depend on the speed of your draw starts to slow down, you know.
Yep,
And
exactly. Because
you
Fennec
can
Shan
see
basically almost took him out a
right,
couple of
Fennec Shan,
times.
brand new, almost took
Yeah.
him out, was definitely a challenge, and he definitely underestimated her. And he has that plate on his head now, which I
Mhm.
mean, just the character visually is starting to show some wear and tear, a lot more wear and tear.
Exactly. Yeah.
But a great cameo. I love that the confrontation between those characters. It's
Mhm.
good hearing, you know, Cad Bane's voice again and everything, even though I'm not as big a Bane fanboy as you. But
Yeah.
that was another good cameo. Any
Right.
others that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, there's one I want to touch on because I want to get your take on it again. Obviously, we had Kane and Jarrus in the first episode
No.
as basically about a 15-year-old Padawan.
Right.
And I know you've got this hang up on how annoying that character was for the 5 minutes he's in the episode, but
It's not a hang up, it's just reality.
I've gone back
It's
and watched it
horrible.
I've seen it 3 or 4 times now, and
Oh
I remember
God.
the first time it annoyed me, and then I'm like, after that it just really doesn't bother me. I don't know.
Well, it's like being stabbed 100 times. When does it stop hurting? You know, about, is it the 30th stab that you stop feeling it? You know, I guess I'm getting stabbed some more, you know. There's only
Wow.
so much pain you can
I
feel
mean, I don't care
before you
about
go
defending him.
numb.
I don't care about defending him, but I just don't think it's as bad as all that.
It was terrible.
I mean,
It
let me
was
put it this way: it was
horrible.
nowhere near as bad as the original Ahsoka appearance.
I
In
just
the
don't.
in the
mean,
Clone Wars movie. That
when
was
was there
the
the
worst
movie?
thing ever. What's
No,
that?
that was. I think that was okay. See, I
Oh,
know
that was
people hate that, but
terrible.
I was familiar with the character already. I watched it out of order. I didn't. I never watched the movie until
Yeah, well, see,
recently.
I saw the movie first in the theater,
So
and
I
then
knew what
walked
she
out
was going to
thinking, "What
become.
has happened to
So
Star Wars?"
yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, I didn't have the hopelessness of like, oh my God, this is the new
Yeah.
thing. No, I didn't have that. So and Kanan, you know, is the same thing. We know where he goes, and he's cool where he goes.
Yeah.
But don't ever want to criticize actors. It's not his fault. But if it's Freddie Prinze Jr. they used for the voice for 15
It
years
is.
old, that was a mistake.
It
That
is,
was just
yeah.
flat out a mistake. Don't do that. I didn't want to know that. It was awful.
Right.
Kanan.
All right, that's the end of our time on that subject.
Why can't a Padawan be cool? Just hang back. Just be cool. Why are they all freaking annoying? No wonder Anakin slaughtered them all.
Yeah.
Where's that deleted scene? I want to see that. I want to see him slaughter Kanan, 14-year-old Kanan Jarrus. I was rooting for Crosshair there.
Yeah, I see that. All right. Okay, so our third and final topic on 10 Parsecs is going to be Grand Admiral Thrawn. Our perceptions of that character from what we've seen him thus far in the Star Wars universe, and then moving forward, what are our expectations and hopes for the live action version of that character. And we are on the clock. So for me, this is, to me, is one of the best expanded universe characters, created by Timothy Zahn for the original Thrawn trilogy back in the early 90s. That probably most of you have read or at least know about if you haven't read it. I've always loved the character. He's just to basically give you the background, he's from a race called the Chiss. They're humanoid, blue skinned, red glowing eyes. He is hyper intelligent. He has that sort of typical ice water in the veins villain, if you want to go there. He rarely, if ever, gets excited about anything. You never see him yelling and up in arms about anything, because he's just always feels like he's always 2 or 3 steps ahead of anybody he's going up against. But I've always loved the character. I think he's phenomenal. I loved him in the original trilogy, or the original Thrawn trilogy, and then of course we saw him again in Rebels, the animated version, which we'll get into that version of Thrawn in a minute, which is totally different in my opinion. Greedo, what do you think of the Thrawn character as a whole?
Well, personally, I never so much was into Thrawn because the expanded universe books, I never quite got over just the take it or leave it on those. I enjoyed them. I read a whole bunch of them and everything. And it was an incredibly ambitious work to do all that and put together. And I give Timothy Zahn credit for really revitalizing interest in Star Wars with those books. The first three books, was it Heir to the Empire, and that kind of arc that he did. And Thrawn is a huge part of that because he is one of the only worthy villains they've come up with in the Star Wars universe after, post Palpatine and Vader. And the bar is incredibly high when and also from my perspective, the Emperor was never a dominant villain for me until the prequels. The prequels for me, I reimagined the Emperor a lot and elevated him to a much higher level where I regard him as one of the great villains in Star Wars now, and the Clone Wars also did that. But so you really had Vader and then just kind of side villains like Tarkin and all the Imperials, and but Vader was the villain. They just had to make the Emperor worse than him, so you'd have a reason to root for Vader in Jedi. But basically, how do you top Vader? I mean, you don't. But how do you even put someone in that, area of Vaderism or whatever? It's really difficult, as has been proven over time. And so when you were describing Thrawn, I'm laughing a little bit because he's blue-skinned, red eyes, hyper intelligent. I mean, it sounds kind of silly when you put it all like that. But so does Vader. Samurai suit. Breathing through a aqua lung or whatever.
Right.
It just doesn't, and he uses magic. What? He has a sword.
He has a laser sword.
He comes in with his billowing cape. So, but greatest design. I don't know if Admiral Thrawn will translate as well visually in live action. I hope so. Blue is a hard skin color to pull off and take seriously, not to be racist, but it kind of, I think it's been shown in Star Trek and different things like that. Because it's a happy color, a happy, vivid color. You just don't associate that with a bad guy. It's Smurfs, it's not a bad guy. But Thrawn is his own thing, and I give Timothy Zahn all the credit in the world, which he deserves. I hope he's a millionaire, because Thrawn's super important character, in my opinion, to Star Wars, to where we're sitting now. If you weren't there, you don't know how dead in the ground Star Wars was until Thrawn. So, and I'm trying to think, can you think of a single villain that you can put over Thrawn that they've done in Star Wars media since the 90s?
I mean, not since are you talking about post prequels?
No, I'm talking about since Thrawn was done in the 90s.
Since Thrawn was created.
Yeah, is there a Star Wars villain of that caliber? Maybe the Emperor in the prequels, but he already existed. They had some.
We already had that character.
Draw upon. Yeah. An original villain. I can't really think of one off the top.
For me,
Kylo Ren is pretty good villain.
It's good, but it's still not. It doesn't compare. I don't think, to Thrawn.
He's not a true villain. He's an anti-hero in a lot of ways, Kylo Ren. And
I mean,
Thrawn is getting there too, but
yeah. I mean, I would put Maul in there, just because I've always liked that character, and the fact that he was a one and done. We thought he was a one and done in Phantom Menace, but then they brought him back. Obviously, they brought him back in Clone Wars and Rebels, etc. So we'll see. Maybe we'll even get him in Bad Batch at some point. We don't know.
Yeah.
But I would say Maul for me is the only one that probably comes closest. I'm currently reading I'm sure you're aware that Timothy Zahn has now done 2 more trilogies on Thrawn. Right. And I'm right at the end of the second book of the first trilogy that he came out with recently. I think this is released roughly 2015 to 2018, something like that. The first book was just called Thrawn, showed his backstory, kind of how he got involved with the Empire and kind of his first few years as a naval officer. Then the second book, the one I'm in now, is called Alliances, which basically is a two-part story. Not what I mean by two-part, it's a split story. It shows a flashback story of Thrawn and Anakin before Order 66.
Oh,
When
wow.
they teamed up, and then it mirrors a story post Order 66 when Anakin, of course, has become Vader, and Thrawn are teamed up on a similar mission. So it's kind of like two parallel stories going throughout the entire book.
Didn't realize Thrawn was that would have been around that long in the timeline.
That's
pretty cool.
He goes back to the Clone Wars. Yep.
So what about Rebels? Thrawn and Rebels.
So Thrawn and Rebels. Yeah, Thrawn and Rebels to me was a very watered down version. If that's the only version you've ever seen of Thrawn, you need to read the books. I feel like I'm just afraid that they watered him down way too much. You know, he kind of almost became the patsy for the group of rebels in the show, and I get that because it's their show and they're the
you're
stars.
stuck with that, yeah.
But yeah, so I don't want if that's your only version that you've ever seen of Thrawn, you know, go read the books. You know, he's definitely a much more intriguing character than what was portrayed in Rebels. What do you think, Greedo?
Yeah, I had no use for it, really. I thought it was a waste of, they should have built an original villain for that. But I realized they were trying to give people what they wanted and have some hype and stuff, but that was beneath the character, I felt like.
Yeah.
And it was weird because we get into this gray area where the Legends character doesn't exist anymore, depending on, you know, and so you've got this kind of weird shadow of the original Thrawn collecting the art of his enemies and all that in Rebels, but it's not him, and it's just odd.
Yeah.
But I think the actor who did the voice, isn't that the one they've cast to play the live action?
Yeah, well, the rumor has it, nothing's been confirmed, but yeah, the rumor is that Lars Mikkelsen is going to be portraying the role, since he voiced the character, and he does kind of physically look, you know, he could pull off that character. Which, by the way, he is the Star Wars connection. He is the brother of Mads Mikkelsen,
Right.
Who of course played Galen Erso.
All those Mickelsons.
Yeah, all
they have a huge family.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they pull that off. Like you brought up a great point, Greedo, that, you know, is that character going to translate to live action? You know, a blue skin, glowing red eye, you know, that's something that's easy to pull off in an animated series and a book. But when you put it in live action, it's probably pretty easy to come off as silly.
Yeah.
And not to be taken seriously.
It's going to require a strong visual design and a strong performance, and then you know, and good writing. Thrawn's not just something you can just say, he's, you know Thrawn, he's bad, so we're just going to stand him here in the corner and he's going to be bad.
Right.
You got to, I mean, you can't just depend on the legacy. You got to make it worthwhile when you adapt him and everything.
Right, exactly.
And also, I want to say Star Wars has a problem with villains because they're never allowed to win. They're never allowed to really inflict any true losses or stakes on the good guys, because Star Wars at heart is about, you know, the good guys winning.
Good prevailing
over evil. And a lot of the content has been done for younger people. Although Clone Wars, you wouldn't know it from some of the later stuff, but the villains really are never really allowed to do any more than checkmate. They're never allowed to win. They don't. Their master plans, like Moff Gideon. I love Moff Gideon, but he was doomed because, you know, he's assumed I know everything, and my master plan. Well, it just went nowhere. You know, he was in the background, and by the time he stepped forward, it was to end him. You know, and end his plans. So he was never a super serious threat, as great as the actor is and everything.
Right. So
they need to develop some villains, and that's just not something they've been committed to so far.
And I hope they pull it off with Thrawn. I really do. And you know, again, you know me and my faith in Filoni. You know, I think he can do, you know, no wrong. However, you know, he was also responsible for the watered down Thrawn that we got in Rebels. So what are we going to get? You know, that's the only thing that I think. Well,
like you said, they were handcuffed, but I always thought it was a mistake bringing in that character there. I just didn't see the point. Because
it's not, you know, Rebels obviously had a younger demographic than Clone Wars, and to have to try and pull off a villain of that caliber on a show geared for that age group, it's doomed
He
to
was
fail, I
also
think.
he was also a legacy villain associated with the main characters from the franchise. You tie him up his fate with Ezra Bridger. No offense to Ezra Bridger, I know a lot of people love Rebels, and that's a huge character for them. But he's not. He's not a huge character in the lexicon of Star Wars. You know, if you look at the whole Star Wars as a whole, has his own story and stuff. But you know, I just don't know about that move of tying those two characters together. They go into unknown space or whatever.
Well,
and now they're linked.
that's true. But I mean, part of it I think was just to explain why Thrawn wasn't in the original trilogy.
Sure,
because
but now you're kind of stuck with
baddie, you know? What's that?
Yeah, now you're kind of stuck with it though. You know, like you got to explain how this fits or whatever.
And you know, more of the rumors too are that they're casting a live action Ezra Bridger, and that he's going to be appearing as Win. So maybe he will become a bigger, you know, character in the Star Wars lexicon.
But the question is, if Thrawn couldn't handle one ship full of ragtag little misfits.
Exactly.
You know, if he couldn't get a win against them, why is he a serious threat? I guess you could say he's younger and everything, but I don't know.
When you read the books, you'll realize that he's already established himself by that.
He needs to be like an Alexander the Great almost, you know, some kind of military freaking genius that wins against the odds, not let scrappy little, you know, people who, when he has all the odds in his favor, beat him, you know? So it just, for me, it didn't work. But
I agree. All right. Well, we are well over time on that one. So, but I could probably go on for quite a long time with that character.
I'm looking forward to it, though. I'm looking forward to it.
For sure.
I hope they give us almost as much time on the villain as they do on the heroes of whatever he appears in next, whether it's Ahsoka or whatever. I hope he gets serious development.
Yeah. I do again recommend that series by Timothy Zahn, not only the original Thrawn trilogy if you haven't read it, but the more current ones. I think the three titles would be Thrawn, Alliances, and then Treason is the third one. And I don't recall the name of there's an even newer trilogy since that, which I don't recall the titles of those books, but I'm going to get into.
You know what's going to be interesting if he is the featured villain of Ahsoka is that what you're telling me is that they now have Vader in common. They have Anakin and Vader, both those characters in common now.
Yes, they do. So kind of interesting tie-in there. Yeah,
I wonder if it'd be weird if we got another Hayden cameo in a flashback with Thrawn, you know, and Ahsoka, because if they were together, if Anakin and Thrawn worked together in the Clone Wars era, she could have been around too. So they could even know each other from then. Anyway, it gets mind-boggling when you start thinking about it all.
Yeah, exactly.
But
so let's move on now and talk about the latest episode of the Bad Batch. We'll wrap up our show with a sort of an encapsulation of that episode, and we're talking about episode 14. Called War Mantle, which I personally loved. I thought it was a phenomenal episode, one of the best of the entire season so far, because I think they really pushed the storyline forward. It was a fairly dark episode from the standpoint of it was a lot of action, ends on a very bad note, and it's just it opened up a lot of kind of answered a few questions about where we are in the timeline, what the Empire is doing, and how they're evolving and becoming the Empire that we're eventually going to know in the original trilogy. What were your overall thoughts on this episode, Greedo?
Well, first and most importantly, one thing you didn't mention is it also featured the return of the Stormtrooper music from A New Hope.
That's right.
From Star Wars, which I instantly noticed is my favorite part of the episode just because of that. It's amazing what John Williams music can do for anything. Somebody needs to do a video of that where you put like the Jaws music over just random things and see how it transforms the feel, and put the Stormtrooper music over random things and see how it transforms the feel of stuff. Because that was amazing when that music kicked in, and I realized like, oh, you could associate that music with Stormtroopers because it was the music on the Death Star, when our original trio was running around with Stormtroopers chasing them and everything. So I thought that was brilliant. very cool. Verahcoo, and I loved all the different troopers we got to see in the episode. That was really cool. All the Ralph McCory kind of troopers, the
sort of
Republic Commandos,
pre-visualization version of them.
That was great. And yeah, there was plenty of action, and we also got to address some of the questions that we've always had, like what are stormtroopers, what are clone troopers, where's the demarcation between clone troopers and stormtroopers, and how did that happen?
That's what I liked, is the fact that they started to address that they realized, okay, they're getting away from the clones, because like we see in part of the storyline, they canceled the contract with the Kaminoans. They don't want any more clones. They would prefer to have actual voluntary recruits. And then we actually see that towards the end of the episode, where they actually pull the helmet off of one of the stormtroopers, and he's clearly not a clone, which I enjoyed that. But that was kind of neat to start seeing that transition into, non-clone troopers. So I thought that was well done.
I really enjoy seeing the Republic Commandos in there, because I played the game back in the day.
That was fantastic. Yeah,
anytime they show up, I'm like, oh damn, that's awesome.
I love that. And I that was one of, I don't know if you read it, but that was one of my favorite book series, was the Clone Commando series.
Oh no, I didn't read that. That's cool.
Yeah, those were so good. That I read. I think I forget how many books. It's about 6 or 7 books in that series. And it was phenomenal. I just really got engaged in that expanded universe series. So I really another book series I highly recommend. So yeah, it was always great to see Clone Commandos. That's really interesting. So speaking of Clone Commandos, we get the return of a character that we first saw in Clone Wars, and that's Gregor, one of the clones. He was a Clone Commando, actually. And if you recall I'm trying to think of the name of the story arc, but it's he appeared at the end of the story arc that features, it's droid heavy, and they had that little I can try to think of the commander, the little bitty guy with the eyes on the stalks. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but I don't remember specifically the
I know. Hold on, let me look it up because I want to be able to explain this better.
And this is the character with the crazy laugh, right? He kind of has that weird inappropriate laugh.
Right.
He laughs at inappropriate moments, kind of.
Exactly. Very much a non-standard clone.
I liked it when he said, "Oh, you're defective," or whatever, when they told him who they were. He's very matter of fact about it, but didn't really care.
Exactly. Okay, so basically we first see him in Clone Wars. He has amnesia. He's basically suffered an injury. His ship has crash landed on this planet, and he's lost his memory. He doesn't know who he is anymore. He has no recollection of being a clone or anything. He gets taken in by a guy who owns a bar on this planet, and basically the guy convinces him that he's his slave, that he's just there to work for him in his bar, and that's his whole purpose in life, and hides all of his ammunition or his weaponry and clone gear and all that from him. And that's where it's Colonel Meber Gascon is the character's name I'm trying to think of. That's the little leader who's with the droids, and they're basically out in the outer rim, getting lost, trying to get back to the Republic. They stumble across this. They recognize him instantly as a clone, and long story short, he ends up saving Gregor, the clone, ends up getting his memory back, realizing who he is, puts his gear on, even though he's out of practice, his instincts are still true, and he ends up taking out a bunch of these Trade Federation guys, distracting them so that the droids and Gascon can escape. And now they left it with a big question mark in Clone Wars, because at the end, it looks like he dies in a big explosion, like he sacrifices himself so that they can live. And that's the last time we see him until Rebels. Basically, he shows up again in Rebels. He's one of the guys with Captain Rex, and he's
in that walker kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah, living in the walker. And then, of course, now we've got a story in between those two points in the timeline with the Bad Batch. So that basically is a bit of the background on who Gregor is. So now he's so basically, as far as this story is concerned, Rex has reached out to the Bad Batch to go help Gregor because Gregor's in distress, and he's sent out a distress signal. And that's basically the story. It's them trying to infiltrate this Imperial base on this planet to get him out. And I just thought the way this episode was done was really tremendous. I love, like you said, the aesthetics of it were great. You know, hearing the music, the Stormtrooper music again for the first time. You know, seeing the transition from clones to regular humans as troopers was phenomenal to see that finally. You know, it just, I don't know, it was kind of a dark, heavy episode. You know, it ends up on a bad note with obviously with a cliffhanger with Hunter being left behind and captured by the
spoilers. If you haven't seen it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't be watching this if you haven't seen it. Yeah, and you also get the cool confrontation for a second at the end between Crosshair and Hunter come face to face.
Right. Yeah.
For a moment.
Last thing we see.
Now, I like how these characters. There's no hysteria between them. It's almost like, you know, professionals, you know, old professional friends meeting or on opposite sides or whatever. There's not a lot of melodrama there. They're just looking at each other, and exactly. They know each other really well. I mean, Crosshair probably knows Hunter better than any of the people that he's around now, you know. So exactly. It makes me wonder what's going to happen next, because you instantly wonder, is Crosshair really under control, or is, you know, of the Empire, or is he not, you know? So I'll be interested to see what happens. But
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where they ultimately take the Crosshair character. Are they going to have his arc return him back to the Bad Batch, or is he just lost for good?
So I will say one thing that confuses me, and is when they set the stakes in the series as like, your orders are to kill Clone Force 99. They've made that clear. Like, that's what they told Crosshair. That's what they told everyone. I'm not interested in the Imperial commander's like, I'm not interested in having them back, because the cloners were like, we need them back. And he's like, nah, let's just get rid of them. So you know their orders are to kill them. You know every good soldier follows orders. Well, why did Crosshair take Hunter alive? I don't understand that. And they've been, you know, going through mowing all these people down, but with stun. You know, so obviously, and the Imperials are firing back with live rounds, but why would they capture Hunter at the end even? Why even bother? I mean, you got all these guys surrounding him, and he just kind of surrenders when there's a kill order already. So I don't get that, but maybe it's to help capture the others, I guess.
Yeah, but I think part of it was the reason why they didn't just kill him when they captured him why did they capture him in the forest instead of just killing him, is because Crosshair wasn't there, and Crosshair wants to have the final say in this. You know, they're his guys. He wants to be the one to take them out. And so that's why I'm sure his orders were, if you get him, or if you get any of them, you bring him here, you know, under guard, and then I'll deal with them.
Yeah, so it's typical villain weakness.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Like, you just take care of business and you wouldn't have any problems.
Instead of taking action, you have exposition. Yeah.
Next thing you know, your base is blowing up. You're you know, you're being ejected into space or sinking to the bottom of the ocean. But or you're spinning off in a TIE fighter. But yeah, that's the only thing that kind of the convenience of the bad guys are really bad until the plot armor comes in, you know, and then but the episode was great. The animation stepped it up a notch with the action, which I got to imagine it's harder to animate all these moving pieces. So the dogfight was really cool. It had a lot of neat explosions and motion with the different fighters and stuff, and I really liked that. And it was a really good episode. Yeah, it wasn't on the scale of an old Clone Wars episode, but it didn't need to be. I'm not saying that, but it was really good.
Yeah. Oh, agreed. Yeah, I found it enthralling. It was the best episode. I wouldn't necessarily say the best episode of the whole season, but it's up there in the top 2 or 3, I think, of the 14 that we've gotten so far. And of course, now we're down to the final 2 episodes of the season. So we'll hopefully be getting some resolution on some of this stuff soon. And I'm hoping that they keep this level of intensity up the last 2 episodes, because we have had
Yeah.
the dreaded filler episodes like we talked about before.
Right.
A couple of those, but they weren't terrible. Again,
Yeah.
they weren't unwatchable. Like, admittedly, even some of the filler Clone Wars episodes were almost unwatchable. Were really, really bad.
Yeah, every series has them.
And Rebels, obviously I know your take on that as well. I know there's a lot of really bad filler episodes in that show as well. But with Clone Wars, of course, it was made at a time when they were still making 20 plus episodes a season.
Yeah.
For the first,
and to get syndicated, you have to make a certain number of episodes, and if you have only so much story, then you have to come up with more story, and it can never have the stakes of the main story. And that's my kind of issue with some of these shows, and with Bad Batch is you take people like the Bad Batch, you leave them in their armor and uniforms and everything, and then you have them babysit a kid, you have them go help a crime syndicate get their office back. It just seems like when they're up against other troopers, the Empire's involved and stuff, you're just back where it's supposed to be. The other stuff, I just don't see those characters being that interesting mucking around in the universe of the Mandalorian, like in a bar with bounty hunters and stuff. I just don't think they belong there. So I'm more interested, my interest goes up when I see them in a kind of a, Civil War type conflict or whatever, or galactic, war. They're too skilled and too different. They always say, they've said even had an identity crisis going on where they say, we're not mercenaries. We're not bounty hunters, we're soldiers. And they're trying to come to grips with the fact that they aren't soldiers for anyone. Obviously, to me, it's leading towards they're going to be soldiers for the rebellion at some point. Because they need a cause. But that's my only thing is, like, I appreciate that they're world building and they're building the environment and stuff. But when they bring it back home to the conflict with the troopers, and it just feels more right to me, to go from a kind of an elite or different squad in the Clone Wars to hanging out in a bar, it just, with side missions and stuff. It just, I don't know, it doesn't seem right. So they seem more fully utilized and everything when they're in this kind of conflict.
Right. So I agree. Yeah, I agree completely. That's why I think this episode was so much better, because it puts them in an element that I feel that they're more at home, that I feel like the show is more at home. It doesn't become, mission of the week.
Right.
It's more of a, this is the overarching story. This is where this group belongs. And even though this was technically a mission, this was just Rex saying, hey, go help this guy out. I can't do it right now, and they were even, upset at first, because, like, what, we're supposed to go help a reg, anyway, I just thought that was, you made a great point, that this is their element, more so than just, running errands for Sid,
I think to get out of this, if they move them out of this conflict and into more of a Mandalorian type feel or something, or like the filler episodes have been, or whatever you want to call them, that they almost need to pay a price to get out of it. Right. Like some of these characters need to go, or something, to establish a new dynamic, or to say we survived something and that's why we're making a change, right. To be about something like that. I also wonder, like, I know it's just the dynamic of the show, but I don't feel like they've done enough to try to get Crosshair back, because I don't know. We only had so many episodes with the Bad Batch, so I don't know their dynamic entirely, but they were a unit, and the clones seem to take that very seriously. All clones do. They don't necessarily, like, if you throw their units together, they don't necessarily adopt the other units as much as they do the guys right next to them, but they seem to take the brotherhood and all that very seriously. And especially Clone Force 99, they're very different. They're kind of misfits that make them even closer, I feel like. So they seem to move on from him pretty quickly, and then they all had the surgery, and none of them brought up Crosshair, I don't think. I can remember saying, what if we did this for him, because he's kind of enslaved right now, and they're just and they're going to make a big deal about going back for Hunter, and they made a big, they made a big deal constantly about keeping Omega safe and rescuing her, but they just kind of washed their hands across here. So
it's like right
that's
away.
That's a little odd.
Oh well, but he's lost.
Yeah.
No, I get that. And that's kind of why I'm kind of confused as to why they've done that. It seems like you said, with the loyalty factor, that they would be trying, or at least it would be more of a a topic of conversation with them, like how we're going to get him back. You know,
Yeah.
he can't be lost. You know, if they programmed him, we can program him back. You know, kind of a thing. You know, we can get rid of
You
the
could also
program.
argue though that these guys aren't as resourceful and developed emotionally or whatever. It's kind of early to deal with those themes of redemption and coming back from the dark side when you've got the ultimate story of that coming up in the original trilogy. You know, like, you know, how far do you want to go down that road? Of, you know, now Vader's not only he's not the chosen one anymore, he's also not the first person to come back, and not the, you know what I mean? It's like, you can tell the same story only so many times before it starts to dilute the others. But but this is a little different, and I could see them at least trying to reason with him or something. I think that's coming up. But what have we got? 2 episodes left?
2 more, yeah.
And also, was War Mantle one of the code words that Jen Erso said in the data tower at the end of Rogue One?
Oh, you mean as far as like Starlight and all that stuff?
Yeah, I don't
know.
know.
I have to go back and see.
Mantle might have been in there, but I think it was with a different phrase.
Okay,
It was.
That'd be interesting to see.
It was Pax Aurora, Dark Saber or Black Saber or something like that. Stardust. There was some kind of mantle or war or something, but that was the first thing I thought of when I saw the title. I was like, is that from Rogue One? Is this going to be a reference to another Imperial project? But anyway.
But overall, I mean, I think we both obviously enjoyed that episode a lot.
I'm not going to complain when they give me what I wanted in the first place, finally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that was really good. I enjoyed that episode. Any final thoughts on that before we wrap up?
No, I just hope they give a good, satisfying ending to this first season. I'm interested to see what the plan is for the future. Is there going to be a season 2? Is this a Rogue One type story that's contained, and where's the impact going forward? Are these characters going to reappear? Are they going to be in live action? It's pretty interesting stuff. So I almost hope with the clones that they keep it to Captain Rex in live action alone, because it might be harder to pull off, you know, having clone characters in live action, and Rex deserves to be kind of the one, you know, I feel like if you want. So
all right, well, that's basically our episode for this week. You know the drill. Hit like for us, subscribe to the channel so we can let you know when new episodes are coming up. Give us some comments down below so we can hear from you and see what you think about where we're going, give us some topics to talk about. And other than that, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys.
Scum and villainy, it's a wretched hive. But life ain't always teddy bears, fireworks, and high fives. The folks round here don't care for sand. Stick around long enough, you'll be lucky just to lose a hand. Singing yum num, raise your glass and sing yum num. Yum num at the Cantina Club.
there you go.